guest is Natalia, and Natalia just got a job at a startup as a head of customer success at Gorgias. And prior to Gorgias, Natalia was working as a scale customer success manager at Slack and at Astro Technology, which was acquired by Slack. And hi, Natalia. Uh, can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us what exactly do you do as a head of customer success?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Natalia. I moved to Silicon Valley around 7 years ago. And ever since I moved, I've been part of different startups and I've always been in customer success. My last startup I worked for got acquired by Slack. That's how I ended up being in Slack's scale customer success team. And a couple of weeks ago, I accepted an offer and I'm starting my new job at a company called Gorgias, where I'll be heading our customer success team, around 11 people. And my responsibilities are going to be making sure that our customers are getting value out of Gorgias the moment they purchase. So everything that happens to the customer after they purchase Gorgias is my responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more about customer success role, what it is, and what skills are needed in order to be a customer success specialist or manager?
Yeah, I think that there's still a lot of confusion around what customer success is, how is it different from support, how is it different from account management. So definitely let's talk about that. So customer success should be divided into two main areas. First is high touch and second is scale. I think before we get into the details around those two specifics, I just wanted to say that customer success in general is responsible for making sure that your customer is successful with the product that you are selling. And that includes, first of all, understanding the use cases of your customers and helping them use your tool to achieve whatever they want to achieve. So that's very high level, and that's what customer success is all about: value, value, value. Now, when we talk about high touch, it's a model that's typically applied by companies that have higher price point. So when you have, less customers, but that are paying you millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's when you can afford to have a dedicated customer success manager that will be taking care of your customer and guiding them and helping throughout their journey. In that case, high touch CSMs are really consultants. They have to understand the business of their customers. They have to point to sometimes mistakes that the customers are making, or they have to highlight the processes that are working well, and just advise on how their product can enhance those processes. So that's high touch. And when we talk about scale, it's a different model because it's typically applied by companies that have many more customers, but at a lower price point. So when you have thousands of customers that are paying you, hundreds of dollars or lower thousands of dollars. So in that case, customer success specialists can't touch every single customer, right? Because there's just too many of them, and you would go bankrupt if you were to give a dedicated customer success manager to each one of those. So we think more programs, specifically one-to-many style. Think email campaigns, think in-app onboarding, think webinars, or even events sometimes. Anything that has this one-to-many aspect where you can continue to deliver value to your customers, but not through one-to-one engagements. So that's higher level what customer success is. And I think to address the point of what's customer support versus customer success, support sometimes is part of customer success org. In different orgs, it's like really different. For example, at Slack, where I'm currently still working, support is not connected to customer success. It's a part of product org. So they report to our CMO eventually, right? Sorry, CPO, Chief Product Officer. At Gorgias, the company that I'm joining, it is part of customer success. So our support team will be reporting to me, which means that we'll have to figure out how to make them think scale as well. So it depends on the company where they want to put the support team organizationally. But the main difference is that support exists to address customers' concerns reactively, right? You have an issue, you report, and support helps you fix it, right? Whereas the customer success's philosophy is to be proactive and prevent those bugs or issues in the first place, so that the customer doesn't have to go through that poor experience. And customer success is also a strategic role. So you understand your customer's business and you try to help them pick the strategy that will take their business to the next level. So this is pretty much like account management 2.0, you know, just with a little bit more focus on customer's value, rather than like dollars. Because I think, to me, when people say account management, I always think, okay, account manager is the person who's responsible for upgrading, you know, so for bringing in more money. So it's more of a sales function. And I think the reason behind separating the two is that customers want to feel that there's somebody on the company's end that cares about like their success without direct correlation with how much money they're paying, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, so that was my not very brief explanation.
So basically, customer success is a person, a dedicated team, or a person who is driving you through the journey of your product in order to enhance it, bringing those tools that you are guys selling, right? Basically,
yeah,
that.
That's correct. So that you eventually get the value you're paying for.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So, for example, if you're not using the tool to its best force, then customer success people come in and tell you like, hey, you're missing out on this feature, you're missing out on this feature, you should be like using this to to bring more value into your product.
Exactly, yeah. Before that, I would add, before recommending any features, it's customer success manager's job to understand if those features are relevant. So in order to do that, they need to understand the use case, right? So they need to know, to make it, I think, to make it more clear, let's use Slack, because I assume people know what Slack does. So let's say I'm a customer success manager and I have a customer that's using Slack as a direct messaging tool, right? So they only chat. Now, if I see that in my numbers, right, my job is to understand, okay, obviously like they aren't using the core feature of Slack, which is channels. So my job is to understand, okay, do they need to use channels at all? If they do, what would those use cases be? For example, do they do company announcements, right? If they do they use Slack for that? Mm-hmm. And if I find out that, yes, they do have it, but they don't use Slack for that, then that's a perfect first use case to start with, right? And I don't know, for developers, Do they connect Slack with tools like, I don't know, Jenkins, GitHub, GitLab, whatever? So are they using Slack to help them, for example, deploy code faster, to get notifications, and not to do it in a manual way? Do they automate that process? So yeah, I think my point is that not every customer has to use every single feature of your product, and the job of customer success manager is to diagnose which customers should use which tools.
Mm-hmm. And does it relate to the scale customer success, or it's because there's a lot of customers and you can't just like know everyone's business and then go and recommend features or not?
Yeah, you can to an extent. Of course, like with high touch, you have like much more time and much more opportunities to do that. So you have the luxury of going deeper, right? With scale, you can still do it. It's just like the way you think about it is different. You still have product data, right? That shows you how your customers are using. So you can segment them from there. You have industry data sometimes. And it's also part of your job to understand what data you need to make those decisions. And sometimes there could be correlation between certain features and certain industries. Like certain industries might not be using certain features, right? For example, again, going back to our Slack example that I shared before, tech companies are going to be using different integrations than, I don't know, utility companies are going to be using, right? And typically tech companies are going to be more mature than, again, some of the more traditional ones. So having those insights can help you segment your users and then run campaigns that address the needs, again, based on your hypothesis, of course, and how well those experiments are, how much they move the needle defines you as a customer success specialist.
And what types of skills are needed in order to be a successful success manager, customer success?
Successful success manager. Yeah. So, well, communication skills is definitely a must for either of those, because even at scale, we do talk to customers a lot, because that's one of the ways we can get insights into how they're using it and understand them. So if you don't like talking to people, then probably customer success is not the job you should be going after. But yeah, so communication skills is definitely important. After that, I think for both scale and high touch, being customer oriented is something important as well. Other than that, I think I would distinguish between high touch and scale. So for high touch, it's really important to be consultative. So I'd say, I don't know, 80% of high touch, current high touch scale CSMs have consulting background, and there's a reason for that, right? Because they have that attitude of guiding customers through the journey, telling them what's right, what's wrong, and help them get to the next level. So being consultative is important for high touch, and also being proactive is important for high touch as well, because you're typically responsible for customers that bring in a significant amount of revenue to your company. So you don't want to miss red flags when like that can indicate that they can churn, right? So you have to always be on top of things. And for scale, I'd say analytical skills are important, because you're dealing with campaigns, data, and yeah, you just have to be comfortable with that. And I'd say for scale, creativity is extra important, because like some of those tricks that scale teams usually use can get exhausted pretty quickly. And here's what I mean. Back in the days when there was like the drip campaigns became a thing, right? It's a like when you get an email, a sequence of emails from your, let's say, customer success manager, and at the beginning, like you wouldn't be able to tell if it's automated or not, because like they would personalize it, right? But they would be able to send it at scale just by being able to change in like the variables, right? So at the beginning, it really worked because people were like, oh my God, like this person is sending me a personalized message. That's so cool. I'm going to respond and things like that. But the more people started to do it, the more people started to realize that, okay, it's automated, so it's not a big thing, you know, so it stopped working. Well, it is still working to an extent, but not as well as it used to work before. So there is this exhaustion point for every like new idea, and you have to continue to generate new ideas in order to get results. Because like the last idea you implemented is probably being used by thousands of other customer success teams around the world. So being able to generate ideas, experiment with them, is something that I'd say is super important for scale system.
Mm-hmm. So at the same time, you have to be analytical and you have to be creative.
I know, isn't it weird? But I'd say that marketing has a pretty similar skill set, right? While I know, like in marketing, like in my opinion, best marketers out there are super analytical people. I know, like some people can think, oh, like it's such a creative field, you know, like you get to work on ads or commercials. It is certainly part of that, but still, like analytical piece is more important. But there's still like that area of creativity, you know, that you have to have in marketing. And I think that applies to customer success as well. I think the skill sets are super, super close. So if you are in marketing, if you have marketing education or experience, I think you should definitely consider customer success, specifically scale.
Mm-hmm. Since our channel is dedicated to those who are looking for a new job, trying to transition to a new profession, where should a person start in order to be a customer success specialist?
Yeah, there's plenty of free and paid online courses today. And I also know that I think San Francisco University, they have just launched a master course in customer success. So that's an interesting thing to explore. But if you don't want to go that far, you can start with a couple of online courses. Gainsight has a ton. So I would definitely check those out. They also have an annual conference, Pulse, where they offer a day of what they call an academy, where you can get to know like what customer success is. That will at least give you an idea, okay, is this something I want to pursue or not? And after that, after like you do your research, you can follow also a couple of bloggers. Lincoln Murphy is one of the most popular ones. Also CEO of Gainsight, Nick Mehta, is someone I really respect. Follow him on LinkedIn. He's fun, and he, I think, really explains what customer success is in a very clear way. Mm-hmm. And after that, if you think that, okay, I don't know, listened to this course, I followed Nick Mehta for, I don't know, a couple of months or weeks, I think customer success is something I really want to try. I would just like modify your resume so that it reflects the skills that are needed in customer success for the role that you're applying, whether it's high touch or scale, and give it a try. Applying for startups, I'd say startups are easier to get into, and they're also I'd say sometimes more fun because you get to experience the entire array of responsibilities, right? You might have an opportunity to try both high touch and scale if you're working for a startup and see what works better for you. You can also talk to customers and understand how that whole process works. So yeah, I start with startups. Or I don't even know if it's a thing, associate. It is. I think, yeah, even at Slack, we have a role that's called an associate customer success manager. So maybe, trying to apply for those, because it's a stage before the customer success manager. So those would be the two options that I'd suggest: startups or associate customer success managers.
Mm-hmm. So associate is like an entry-level customer success.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what are the key metrics are measured for the customer successes work?
Yeah, we're typically measured by ARR retention and any metrics that are adjacent to that, to churn, for example, or upgrades. Yeah, so we have to make sure that we retain customers. So that's like the main job. And if in addition to that, we upgrade them, that's even better.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I think one of the most important questions I think that everyone's curious about, why are you leaving Slack to join a startup?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, one of the reasons why I moved to Silicon Valley is to be part of this startup environment, which I think is unique. It's a unique place. Um, and I just want to get the most out of it. I really enjoy it. I've been part of 3 or 4 startups, I don't even remember. And I really like the vibe. I like this feeling of connectedness with the team. I like the feeling of like everything's possible, because like it's like you have access to everything. It's like it's really up to you, if like how you use it. Like whereas like in bigger companies, you won't get to at least from the beginning, you won't be trusted with having as much control and access to customers as you can when you work for smaller startups. So I think you learn faster, you iterate faster, you grow faster at the end of the day. So yeah, and you get to experience this awesome Silicon Valley-ish vibe of entrepreneurship. You see how companies grow. You see how like, there was nothing and now this is this like multi-million worth startup, and that's a cool feeling. I think I enjoy that. I enjoy creating something from nothing. And I think I can do it. I can use this skill set of mine. I can apply it better in a startup world rather than in a bigger corporation.
So you're starting your new position in June, and how did you start looking for a new job while you still were working at Slack?
Yeah, actually, I didn't like proactively look for a new job. A recruiter from Gorgias reached out to me, but one thing that helped me get noticed by this recruiter is the course that I attended. I was participating in a course called Reforge, and they have different programs, and I was part of the growth series. By the way, highly recommend it, really enjoyed it. I think I learned a ton. Yeah, one of our CMO is one of the teachers at Reforge. So that's how they found me. Then they reached out, and I thought, well, let's talk. The opportunity sounded interesting. So that's it.
Mm-hmm. So another tip is to attend different courses in order to expand your network and eventually meet somebody who can actually hire you.
Yeah, that's definitely a good tip. I think in general, having a mindset of constantly growing and constantly learning is something that that will pay off eventually. So attending classes, attending events where you can meet people, where you can learn from people, reading books as well. So I think all those have to be part of your routine, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It's a habit you develop. So I think that's a good habit to have.
And you mentioned that your CMO was the professor at Reforge.
Mm-hmm.
And so this specific program is for marketing, or is it for customer success?
Good question. It's not. So they have different programs. I think they launched one for marketers this month. But the one I attended was growth, which is more related to product managers, I'd say. But I'm, again, since I'm in scale, and I always think like programs, campaigns, which are related to growth. Of course, like we're all in growth business, especially for startups. So I was just curious to see, okay, what are some of the frameworks that they use to scale, right? What are some of I don't know, analytical tools they use? So what are best practices? I was just curious about that. And yeah, it ended up being a great program for me.
Mm-hmm. Is there, you mentioned tools, is there specific tools that a person who is applying to customer success should know? Something that is like, for example, in marketing, you have to know like Salesforce, Marketing Cloud, or like HubSpot. Is there something like that in customer success?
Yeah, I'd say so. Customer success and sales are always working closely with each other. So at least basic knowledge of CRM systems and how they work would be a good addition to your skill set. Salesforce being a leader, HubSpot as well. Um, in addition to that, if you have experience of working with customer success specific tools like Gainsight or Totango or Vitally, those are all good bonuses. And again, if we're talking about scale, SQL is useful, Excel is useful. Tools like Segment or Periscope, all those would definitely make you a stronger candidate.